Welcome to the Bears Draft Profile Series. Today, we're going to be taking a look at a local favorite for a lot of you. Yeah, it's Notre Dame tackle Joe Alt. Let's not waste too much time. Sammy, let's start the show.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Adam Ray.
It's Hester trying to work it back to the middle. Gets past the first wave, and here he goes. It's Hester inside the 30. Hester's going to take it all the way for a touchdown. And no flag, 92 yards.
The sickest Chicago Bears and fantasy football podcast. Sports entertainment like no other. It's gonna be sick.
Thank you so much for joining us here in our ongoing series of the Bears Draft Profile Series. It is. And in any event, as I get tongue-tied already, but I wanted to take a look at Joe Alt today because, again, I think offensive line is a place the Bears could still be looking. It is Ryan Poles, after all. So to do that, we're going to be bringing on draft analyst and consultant from the Sick Podcast, Draft Vogel. It's Draft Vogel himself. What's up, man?
Oh, same, different day,
Yeah, different.
I don't know if you do that on this show, Adam.
You know what? We tend not to work blue, but it's okay. It's okay. I don't mind. We had Grassi on, and of course he starts dropping F-bombs immediately. Although it's a little joke that we play because every time that I go on to his, I immediately just start dropping the F-bomb. So you're fine. Poor Sammy. I can't believe that you make poor Sammy listen to that salty language. But in any event, I did want to bring you on to talk about Joe Alt. Now, we talked about Fashanu from Penn State a couple of episodes ago, who you liked more than Joe Alt. One of the things, too, I'll say this. One of the player comps I've seen for Joe Alt is Mike McGlinchey, which I don't necessarily love. Like, he's fine. But when you're drafting a lineman, which we would be assuming the Bears would be taking him 9th overall, Mike McGlinchey type player seems a little bit too high. What's your read on Joe Alt?
That's interesting because I think Mike was more of a right tackle, wasn't he?
I would think so. Yeah. I mean, that's what
he's played in the NFL. I think he was a right coming out. I got more Eric Fisher vibes.
Interesting.
From Joe
Okay.
Alt.
And I don't like that. I don't
2013.
I don't like that either. If I'm being perfectly truthful, that was no disrespect to Eric Fisher, and congratulations to you for being you'll always be able to tell people that you were the first overall selection in a draft. But I remember being at that draft being like, what are we doing here? Should they cancel it? If no disrespect again, if Eric Fisher is your top pick, be like, you know what? We're not doing it this year. We're just going to do it you guys. We'll be on Zoom. But I don't want to take away from
Zoom, Adam.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we're doing it on Skype. The NFL Network still tries to bring me in on. They tried to bring me in on Skype in March, and I'm like, I don't have Skype. What is this? You guys trying to bring me in from 2008? No. Give me a Zoom link, please. And then I noticed everybody else is on Zoom. I'm like, why? Why? Because I'm the fantasy guy. But in any event, Joe Alt. I mean, he's still a really good player. But where does he fall on your draft board of offensive tackles?
He's my number 2.
Okay.
Overall, he's my number 4 prospect on the season.
Is that right?
He's fun.
He's better than Eric Fisher. I mean, again, I know I'm dragging Eric Fisher. For no reason.
I think he is, but he's that same type of style. You know what I'm saying? Where he's a fluid athlete, plays a lot better than he really tested, I think, and that's saying something. He ran a 5.05 40 for 321-pound offensive lineman. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
But he's a very tall guy. He's about 6'8.5". His arms are a little bit shorter for a typical, someone we normally see that size. They're at 34, but that's okay. You could still work with that. His dad, John Alt, was 2-time Pro Bowl selection with the Kansas City Chiefs. His brother played hockey at Minnesota and currently plays for the Los Angeles Kings.
Of course,
so he comes from.
Oh yeah.
All
my Chicago fan base hates that I'm a Kings fan, but yes.
Well, yeah, that's a problem. You should be a Blackhawk guy. I mean, I'm Nashville. I'm Preds, man.
I've discussed this many times in the past. I'm going to eventually just put out a special episode on that to explain everything. But yeah, but he comes from a very highly athletic family. He played at Notre Dame. There's a lot of things in his favor, and it feels like some of these guys in the draft, they have famous fathers, but this goes beyond that, right? Like he's really been an exceptional talent at Notre Dame.
Yeah, he's one of the best pass blockers in this draft. Which is typically the first thing that you want to look at when we're talking about a 6'8.5" tall tackle. A lot of times you don't see him get down low enough to make blocks. Ethan Driscoll out of Marshall in this class is one of those examples. I remember watching Charlie Heck at the Senior Bowl in 2020, struggling to get down low against people that were bending just under him, and they were torturing him the entire practice. That's kind of the first concern. So when you see a 6'8" guy that could get down low and he could play with the best of them, it catches your attention because now we're talking about an athletic mammoth, essentially, that can move. He can stay with guys. He bends down low enough. He's not bending at his waist to make a block. So from a pass setting aspect, Joe Alt is probably the best pass protector in this class. As a run blocker, he lacks that first step, and that kind of limits him a little bit to working up into the second level. You don't really see him do that. Really struggled against some more intense defenses like Clemson. Clemson's known for showing all kinds of different looks and bringing, run blitzes and pass blitzes from all different directions. But I thought his hands were pretty darn good, especially initially. He strikes well. He's got really good hand strength. And I thought he had a pretty darn good anchor. He's really, really strong. And so he's a bookend left tackle.
No, I really like that. The one thing that concerns me for the Bears is what you just talked about is he doesn't excel in the running game. And I think that even with the switch at offensive coordinators, the Bears are still going to want to run the football. Even if they have DJ Moore and Keenan Allen, they still want to run the football. They've signed DeAndre Swift, which should show you, again, they want to run the football, which could be something that is kind of a concern for them. And I also look at, some of the teams drafting in front of the Bears, looking at like these teams might go offensive line. Like, could you see the Chargers going for him?
I really could. And, you want to talk about protecting your franchise quarterback for the next 10 years. That's what you're probably getting with Joe Alt, a perennial Pro Bowl guy. That's kind of what the projections are. That's the ceiling, right? That's what everybody's, that's the intrigue is that you're going to get, a guy that could potentially be an all pro at left tackle. I don't think the Chargers will pick at 5 personally. I really think they're going to trade down from what I've heard from looking at the roster and looking at what they're doing. I think they trade down, they trade back. And I think they
trade down to number 5 or they trade down to number 9, maybe.
They could. I think the real threat for Alt before Chicago picks at 9 is Tennessee at 7 because he just looks like exactly the type of tackle.
He looks like a Titan, yeah.
Well, not just traditionally, they're going to switch their offense up this year with, Mike Vrabel's gone. That whole type of we're going to get powerful and run the ball downhill and up your throat. That's kind of gone too. Now we're kind of going to more of a McVay style offense.
Yeah, well, they have to. Yeah, you get Calvin Ridley and you get Tony Pollard. Like,
right?
They're doing a complete glow up of the Titans.
And so
offense.
Alt's going to fit that extremely well.
Yeah, I could see that too. I think that, again, it's fun just to do it because I know how much Ryan Poles values offensive linemen. So I did want to take an opportunity to take a look at him and take a look at some of his traits. One of the things that I really appreciate about you is that your number 1 guy has baby hands. Your number 2 guy has short arms. So it leads me to believe that you sometimes do this weird thing where, you don't look at necessarily the measurements and stuff like that, but you actually look at somebody as a football player, which to me is the wrong way to look at this. I don't care what they do on a football field. Tell me what it says on a spreadsheet.
No, yeah, I do a little bit of both, Adam. I have to, when you can see the trends that teams target based on, measurables, based on the way guys tested when they come out. You can, if you put, teams up against the rosters up against each other, which I have, you can see, hey, teams like guys, on the outside that are taller, or hey, they like their arm, like they'll cut off. There's not a single guy on the roster that's got under 33-inch arms. So that's the cutoff, right? In defensive backs, you could see hey, they really like their 3 cone to be under 7 seconds. And if
that one makes
you
sense.
know, like,
though, yeah.
Right. So it's when we talk about length, Joe Alt doesn't have short arms by any definition. Let's just to clear that up.
Well, yeah, if he's shopping at the
crazy.
rack, he doesn't have short arms, but I'm talking about compared to NFL players.
Well, compared to players his size, his relative size,
true.
right? It's 6'8.5" and having 34-inch arms. We talk about
I have bigger arms than Joe Alt. This is a problem. Look at me. But my arms are built like Olive Garden breadsticks, though. That's the big difference.
No, like DeJuan Jones, right? Came out last year out of Ohio State. This is a guy that he had 36-inch arms and he was 6'7". You know, that's typically what you're seeing at that size is a much longer wingspan. You don't see that necessarily from Alt. But yeah, you want to look at understand the player, right? That's a huge part of the evaluation is understand how they play football, how they see the field, and how they're going to that helps you really with their projection.
Now it goes back to I will always point back to like the Cooper Cup thing, where Cooper Cup plays at Eastern Washington. And you're like, I don't know, like lower level football. It's not Power 5. Then he goes to the Senior Bowl, plays well. And you're like, okay, well, this guy should be a first rounder. And then he goes to the combine and runs like a tick slow. They're like, nope, not good at this game. So I do believe I agree with you. Like you want to look at everything, but you also want to have common sense. And that's one of the things that I appreciate about your evaluations. And if you've enjoyed this show, I implore you to go out and follow the Sick Podcast Draft Vogel. Of course, like and subscribe to this one, or you can follow him on Twitter at Draft Vogel. We are going to be having Marvin Harrison Jr.'s breakdown in a couple of days. So make sure you're on the lookout for that. And then one final one on the edge rushers, because, you know, as we'll throw a bone to Matt Eberflus, we'll do an episode on the edge rushers. But I want to thank everybody here for joining us here today for Draft Vogel. He's there. Draft Vogel. I'm Adam Rank, and we'll see you next time. Sammy, go ahead and play us out.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Adam Rank on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.